Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for everyone. I'm Bob Walham. I'm a partner and CMO at CI&T, and it's an honor to have you all here and our panelists with us today. Our panel is reimagining the future of customer experience, and the bar has been raised, so far. So I count on you, please. So we have a good final panel here. I remember recently I was in Brazil last week, and a friend of mine, she was telling me a story that she left the job, she's doing something new, and she was working with GPT or Claude or both, right? So, and asking some, support and on the new things she's doing. And the AI kept bringing, stuff from the previous company, from her previous role. And at a certain point, she said, I left that job. I'm doing something new. And the AI says, I'm not okay with that yet, right? So, and she says, I am okay. Let's move on, right? So I'm telling you that story because we're talking about customer experience, right? That's a type of a customer experience she's having with that LLM, right? So she's kind of talking to the solution there, getting advice, and it's a very friendly, almost human customer experience, right? So I want to open our panel by inviting all of you to introduce yourself, maybe say something that is not on Link Disney, right? So we know you as humans a little bit more. And your initial view on what is reimagining the future of a customer experience. Kate,
yeah.
Can I start with you?
Yes, of course. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Kate Meltzer. I'm the global head of strategy and innovation at Kenvue. So how many of you, just as a raise of hands, have Listerine, Band-Aid, or Neutrogena in your homes today? Yeah. Most of you. Okay, so part of our portfolio. And I've worked across marketing and technology in my past. Right now, we're really focused on putting the consumer at the center of everything that we do. That includes really pulling in design thinking and agile to rethink what our consumer experience is for millions around the world. And so excited to, something not on my LinkedIn, I learned how to sail in the Hudson River and have some fun stories that I've lived through to tell about it, so find me afterwards.
Good. Let's just jump to Danielle here.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Danielle Whipperfirth, coming to you from Minneapolis. I have spent the last decade building customer experiences in healthcare and retail, especially targeting both patients and providers. And the broader consumer base. Most recently at Walgreens, and now starting in about a week at Boston Scientific, working on medical devices. I won't ask how many people have a medical device in your body, but I will also guarantee you that's a pretty high number. So I'm excited about the impact of that work. And my focus over the last decade, and especially moving forward, is thinking about how do we take these core human needs and jobs to be done, as we call it in the marketplace, and apply these new tools to try to help solve them, because humans are still humans. We still have the same things that we've wanted for hundreds and hundreds of years, but now we have all of these new technologies at our disposal, and so we get to think about how to strategically meet those needs in new ways. And then I guess a fun fact, I'm a West Coast swing dancer. Does anyone know what that is? It's a modern form of swing dancing. If you don't know, all your algorithms will soon start showing you what I do in the near future.
All right. Let's jump into Jason. Jason, introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Jason McMahon. I am the Vice President of Consumer Technology at Domino's Pizza, where I've spent the last 13 or so years working on technology enablement across both our stores and for our customers as well. This has been a really exciting year for us at Domino's. If you don't know, we're more than 80% digital ordering. We've really gone through a digital transformation over the last decade or so to really transform a 60-year-old pizza company into a technology company. And this year we just launched a new website with our friends at CI&T helping us through that. And we're revamping our order tracking system, which we really pioneered about 10 years ago or more. And then we're in the process of redoing our mobile applications as well. So it's been a really exciting time for transformation for us. And as we think about the future, AI is obviously a huge part of how we're looking to accelerate things that we're already doing and thinking about new and novel ways that we can further improve both the store team member as well as our customer perspective. So being from Ann Arbor, Michigan, I'm a big Michigan fan, so this is a big weekend for me. We've got basketball starting up, another home football game, so that's what I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Thank you, Jason. And Theron here by my side to
Thanks,
finalize.
Bob. Yeah, Theron Hofsetz. I lead Web Channels Engineering at Vanguard. So if you are a Vanguard client, you have seen the work product of my teams in terms of what we call our public site or the non-authenticated experience, as well as once you log in and you see all of your accounts, holdings, performance, that's the work of my team. I partner closely with our mobile team. One of the big things, if you've been a Vanguard client, you've seen our mobile app really get significantly better in the last 2 years. And then as we bring those two channels more together, we're looking at how does AI support, really keeping the customer informed in any device or any channel that they want to consume Vanguard content in. So fun fact about me, it is on my LinkedIn profile, I think, but I was using AI and working with AI about 15 years ago before it was just generative AI.
Right.
So I've got a long history in using machine learning and AI for customer segmentation as well as next best action or next best offer, and putting the right message, content, et cetera, into the client's hands to meet their specific need, but using kind of older school like machine learning and AI technologies.
So you're a living example of, adopting the thing before the thing kind of existed, right?
Absolutely.
So we talked earlier today about, the challenges of, AI and innovation, and I don't think it's different in customer experience. We saw Cesar and Bruno mention in the beginning the MIT study and others that mentioned like 95% of things are not working and 5% are working. On the customer experience specifically, on large incumbent corporations, right? Not the startups. What are you guys seeing on the 95% or on the 5%? Who would like to start? I saw Kate excited about it, right? So go.
I think what we're seeing are two different things, and it's been brought up in conversation, right? You see optimization internally. Reimagination is really, how is AI and the evolution of AI helping us rethink solutions for consumers and the consumer experience. What's working really well is the operational efficiencies. I mean, here at Kenvue, I can easily say one of the first things that we started was retail optimization. So something that was very manual before, now we were able to start looking at a store level, a category level, and reimagining demand planning, right? So if there's allergy spikes in certain regions, a Michigan versus a New York, what those differences are, we start seeing the patterns, and that can really help lower costs. It helps with our retail partnerships, and it gets consumers the products that they need when they need it. And then we also have other efficiencies, right, in terms of technology efficiencies, and you've heard that before. What else is working though we're starting to evolve and become a little bit more experimental in pockets. And so that's what I think is really exciting is we started incorporating on my team AI for innovation and concepts. And so we were taking a lot of our quant-qual data and what started off as BI platforms and evolving them with AI agents. And AI agents that would be relevant for us, potential consumers, potential practitioners and partnerships, retailers. Now we can have a really dynamic conversation as we continue to maximize the amount of innovation that we want to test and learn from at rapid speed. And so we're seeing that evolution, and it's working really well, but it's working in pockets.
Okay. Jason, we recently helped you guys launch the new e-commerce experience, right? So Are there learnings from, a customer experience point of view there and using AI that you can share?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest learnings that we've seen is that one of the things that customers really value is stability, predictability, and they value that over a lot of novelty. So I think that one of the reasons that we see a lot of the failure of the 95% is enterprises that are doing things for AI's sake. What am I going to do with AI? And I'm trying to interject AI into the consumer experience just to be doing AI versus stepping back and saying, okay, where are the friction points? And I've got AI as a tool, but it might be generative AI, or it might be traditional machine learning models that are starting to inform some things. Or it might just be AI as a process to build things faster in a more traditional way. So everything doesn't have to be AI. And I think when you try to inject that in, consumers tend to reject that. I think that some of the best use cases of AI that we've seen are just iterations on experiences that our customers are already familiar with. For example, at Domino's, we know order tracking is extremely important in telling customers when their pizza is going to be ready. If I can use AI to make that even 10% better, that's a meaningful customer improvement, but something that is just it's revolution in the background, but something that's not AI in your face. Or maybe it's just that right topping recommendation that I don't know exactly how they knew that I wanted jalapenos today, but that sounds great. That's exactly what I was looking for. So we're trying to find those bits of pieces where it makes sense to inject AI and not just have AI for AI's sake.
Right. Danielle, what are you thinking about taking to Boston Scientific's next week, of ideas? Or you can talk about, your previous experience, things that are working or are not working.
Yeah, I think I really appreciated what Jason just said about how a lot of it is not just trying to create something entirely shiny and new for its own sake and to just kind of use the technology because it's there, but really to iterate on existing processes. My initial mission at Boston will be to improve our sales process and make it more consistent in the way that we serve physicians and answer their questions about our products and help them to ultimately provide those devices to patients. And so I think I'll be looking a lot at understanding what is our existing process today, how are we using Salesforce, what are ways that we can leverage the data that we have, how can we improve the data collection process so that we can add a little bit more ease and consistency in what we're providing.
Good. And finally, Theron here, have you guys been able to revamp your experience with customers? What are things that are working or not?
Yeah. So financial services is highly regulated, right? So
Right.
A couple things that AI has done for us is rapidly accelerate prototyping to compliance review, right? So you might not think, many of us can deliver delightful customer experiences, but when we cross a line into recommendation or advice, right, that's not allowed. So we have to be super careful about what experience we deliver and how the company perceives that going into the marketplace, how FINRA or the SEC perceive that in the marketplace as well. So we've been very cautious about dipping our toe into the public side of customer experience. But what we're doing is accelerating our process, much like others have spoken about, in terms of prototyping, getting that out in terms of our experimentation and learning labs, like learning from clients about what they want. So we've built some client-facing experiences. I can't get into them too much, mostly chat-oriented interfaces. And then we've tested those with our clients and found out that the bar's already really high. ChatGPT or Google, right, with Gemini, Anthropic, whoever you use, has already established a bar that is very high, and they have the collective value of the internet. And so when you put guardrails on it, like we have to at Vanguard, it sometimes disappoints our clients. So we've been, again, testing and learning and are more slowly and cautiously putting things into the market to make sure that we're meeting our clients' demand, right? And the other thing, I think Jason said this, that we're really using that as a way to consider how do we evolve the experience over time instead of completely flatten it or simplify it to I don't think Vanguard clients want to come and see a Google-like prompt as the only interface that they're going to interact with. We have a lot of clients in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and you hear from them very quickly when we don't delight them in terms of that customer experience.
Yeah, you raised the point about the issues that exist in the enterprise world, which are fair, that don't enable to move as fast or as creatively or disruptively or whatever the word is. Does that create some frustration on you guys, some anxiety? I use the example of my friend. She was talking to the LLM, and we have all these examples that people are doing all kinds of things in a very conversational ways with these new startups and AI-based companies. And the corporations look at that and feel what?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's actually causing us to rethink organizational silos and structures consistently. So I mentioned that we're bringing compliance and legal into the process much earlier than we traditionally would have. We would have followed, even though we're agile, we would have followed more of a waterfall approach where we build and iterate and deliver, and then we bring our compliance partners in and they say, you can't launch that. So today we're bringing them into the conversation very early in the ideation phase, into the prototyping and delivery phase. The other thing is it's frankly pushing us to rethink some of our risk posture. So at the managing director level, we are now revisiting how conservative of a company as we are. Are we willing to take risks or not, right? Many of our competitors are already doing that. So we have to live within the guardrails and the boundaries of regulated industry and the regulators that govern us, but we also need to push the boundary a little bit more to say, as a company, we've been very conservative on that interpretation of those regulations, and how do we rethink internal governance and process?
Anyone want to add? Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's an interesting problem when you see a lot of big bangs and evolution in some of those startups where you don't have to manage a $1 billion business with legacy data and keep that alive while trying to redo culture. And I think you touched on risk as a big part of that, and risk and governance is a consideration that is a lot more of a challenge for existing enterprises. The other piece is, I would say, data and data focus. We're a 60-year-old pizza company. Luckily, we've been through a digital transformation, and you get data in a better spot. But companies that have data well organized and data governance, a good API strategy, I think those things enable you to move faster. But the other thing is just building a culture. So I think one of the things that we've seen success in is building in pockets within that enterprise that really where you can take off some of those guardrails. So where can you set a team where you can let them move really fast and kind of work without some of those constraints that might exist in part of the organizations, but do that in a less risky way, and then use that as a proof point to build that culture within and find some proof points where you can deliver value.
I'm going to add one. So I completely agree. I feel like it's a real balance, right? Because you have people and culture. You need to declare that this is something you want to invest in order to really move it forward, because it's such a cross-functional exercise. And then you need the data infrastructure. So, but the vision along with that, because the data is so siloed. And there are so many different purposes in using different data. You need to know what you're trying to accomplish in order to use the right data and feed that model. So it's also, I mean, even in the previous panel, when we're talking about really working with your cross-functional partners between tech or even R&D and with the business, you need to have a clear vision of what you're trying to achieve in order to then set the infrastructure up correctly. And then know that there is a massive level of risk. There's so much liability, especially with something like Gen AI, where it is making its own decisions and you are affecting millions of people. That is very different than a startup. And so, like what Jason said, taking it in these smaller pilots, proving things out, but then understanding that there might be a bigger vision if you connect the dots between all of these use cases is really where the power is.
Want to add something? No. No.
I agree. What's inside?
Okay, good. The previous panels, they talk a lot about, the challenges with people, right? Adoption and, resistance to change, or the lack of a purpose, or not understanding why I'm doing that. Have you guys experiences on that you can share? Good or bad? Theron, you look
Sure.
at me.
Yeah.
Looks like there's something on your mind.
Well, one interesting thing is mostly what you hear a lot about is CEOs saying they're going to reduce their engineering staff by 30% or 50%, right? And we've been doing a lot of experimentation. We have teams of 3 that are literally a product owner, a scrum leader, an engineer, and they're building stuff, right, using agentic IDEs. And we have teams, full stack teams that are using agentic IDEs in a traditional way, but they're just using more AI to do that development process faster. So what's interesting is people have this point of view that the engineering part of the organization is the only one that will change. And the reality is we have product owners building prototypes that used to be UX teams, right? So all of the roles in the organization across the value stream are going to change, and how you embrace that is the most important part of how the success of your AI initiatives will deliver. If the product owners think, we're going to continue to sit here and write Jira stories the way we have forever, and I need less engineers, they're mistaken, right? Because I can use Figma plugins to generate requirements and stories. I can even use AI prototyping capabilities with some of the multimodal models to generate the Figma design, right? So there's a lot of opportunity across the entire value stream. And I think what's been mistaken is this sort of siloed mentality of, oh gosh, I wouldn't want to be an AI engineer, right? And I think everybody has to think, okay, we're not going to make buggies and we don't need buggy whips anymore. The entire process is changing, and how do I embrace that? And how do I have the right mindset to create value within the position that I have?
Organizations will be very different animals.
Yeah.
They will. And how many years?
Well, I think it's already happening, but I mean, we talked about this last night. Within 2 to 3 years, I think many of the traditional roles that you see are very different, right? And it may take, like all things, 15, 20 years for the maturity cycle to get to where we really see very different sorts of jobs. But, a couple books that I've read in the last year, 60% of the jobs that exist today didn't exist 40 years ago, right? So change is inevitable and constant, but it's how we embrace that or think about those changes that I think is important.
Jason, want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I think people, process, technology, it always comes back to those things. And I think we talked about not doing something for AI's sake from a customer perspective, but I do think from an enterprise perspective, it is important to say your role is going to change. I don't necessarily know how AI is going to help you on your day-to-day job, but you should be trying to look for things every day to see and try things out. And some things might not work, and that's okay. But when you do find that magical thing that takes the suck out of some process that you had to do every day, that can be really important. We start to see people on teams say, gosh, this report that I had to write every week that used to, I used to grumble when I'd get asked to do it, and it would take an hour, and now I have AI automate it for me, and it's actually a better report. It doesn't take any time out of my day. That's great. And so when you start to see team members raising their hand with big wins like that, it starts to get the flywheel effect of ideas in place. But you got to start with the people, and it is the technology is complicated too. Like, this is not something that's easy. So when you think, use AI to do that thing on the website, well, gosh, doing that at scale and cost implications and with guardrails, and these are complicated new things for people to learn. So there's an education that you've got to go through, and how you train and how you educate teams is really important to figure out.
Right. It was interesting that in one of the previous panels, there was a little research on who works with technology, and no one's like, or everyone does, right? So technology will be so, ubiquitous, to everything that we do, right? In the next few years. If we think about, we still have a few minutes, but first piece of advice, what would you say for someone that feels like it's late to the AI, journey, let's say?
I can start. I think everyone feels a little bit late. It doesn't really matter how long your company's been doing it. You can always look at another company that it feels like they've been working on this for longer. And I think a lot of companies, especially internally, when you look at the foundation that AI has to be built on, like that data infrastructure, a lot of companies are very, very behind. And so I would just remember that everybody's kind of feeling some degree of needing to move. And rather than worry that you're behind, I would just say, remember that this is gonna now be a lifelong journey for all of us. And maybe the best time to start was 10 years ago. The next best time to start is now. So just get going, start learning, continuously learn. It's not a certification and done kind of a thing. And don't worry so much that everyone else has it figured out, because I think very few people, if any, have it all figured out.
Okay.
I'll add to that. So, because I completely agree. And McKinsey had come out with something recently where CX leaders in majority say that AI is helpful, and it's going to be, that they want to implement it across consumer experience. I'm sorry, the majority of CX leaders have said that 3 in 10 are actually doing something about it. And it's often become because they don't really know the next step to take. And so again, going back to some of the sentiment here, intentionality, thoughtfulness, and starting with a pilot in a specific case is starting to prove out, what is the value here? How can you do that in your organization is really valuable. And also building the teams and upskilling internally. So even when we talk about frustrations or how to sort of evolve your teams over time, I've started, actually, I have 2 really great examples, but I've started building teams as like teams of teams, right? You build an agile team and you bring in all your cross-functional partners. And so if you're building a sales platform, I actually did this over at Vision Care, I brought in our field sales team and I said, you're gonna be product managers, you're gonna be on our sprint ceremonies, and you're gonna be building this tool with us, because at the end of the day, I'm not using it, I'm handing it off to you. And that was an AI-guided selling sales tool, and so they had to have their input in that and their touch of that. So I think that goes for any new team or any new technology. You're upskilling by also creating a new culture of advocates who are helping build it.
Is that a type of the mission for leaders to, jump the bridge and bring people together, even if you don't know exactly what is on the other side?
I don't know if it's part of the mission.
Huh?
I mean, I think we as leaders need to be mindful that that's going to happen. I think there's a massive amount of organic upswell that's occurring.
Okay.
And if you aren't experienced or using AI in your daily life as a leader, you're not understanding what your teams are doing or what how that's affecting their day-to-day work. I see a lot of organic growth happening within my teams. The other thing we're trying to do more in all hands or town halls is showcase that, right? It's coming out of very obscure places. It doesn't have to be leader driven, right?
Right.
So I think the mission for leaders is to embrace AI, recognize that it's changing lots and lots of roles and responsibilities very quickly, and then use that as a way to crystallize sort of that mindset and culture change that you're looking for. I don't think it's a top-down thing, right? It's just, CEOs are
It's like
saying,
everyone thing.
well, sure. I mean, I can tell you that people on my team who are using it the most and the most effective are between
But there's fear.
20 and 35 and not 57 like me.
Right.
Right, so.
But there's fear around, right?
Sure.
So what leaders should do with that?
Well, again, I think we talked about this at dinner last night, right? If you're not using AI and you're not embracing it, you probably are one of the folks that could be at risk of getting bypassed, right? So encouraging your leadership team to use AI, encouraging them to organically try things like hackathons within their sprints. Even a couple of hours or days of capacity is a huge result in terms of AI productivity. So, encouraging that sort of mindset shift within your leaders is super important, but encouraging all of your teams to be using AI and the tools that we have available, both internally and externally. There's the governance that we have internally with our tools is radically different than what you can do at home if you're developing a project using Claude Code or Windsurf or something like that, right? And so your teams understanding those differences make a huge difference in terms of how to apply their learning within the company.
On the fear piece, I think one mistake a lot of leaders have been making stoking fear. So saying, okay, 75% of you are going to be eliminated within 3 years, so good luck, you know what I mean? And I think that an effective leader would be much more focused on creating a positive vision of the future of what the company can look like, what work can look like, what the products and services that you provide can look like, and applying change management best practices, understanding where the gaps are. Is the gap a desire to use AI tools, or is the gap the knowledge and actually the ability to apply them, and then specifically providing those resources to your employees to bring them along rather than kind of scare them into trying to do the right thing?
You know, I was at an event with startups recently, and startup founders were essentially saying, it's now going to be part of your G&Os to figure out a new a solution for your department. Now, that doesn't apply to enterprise as much, right? But it's a really fascinating movement to see that accountability in something that we know is going to hit at some point. And so, if nothing else, it is pushing your teams to be aware and be somewhat responsible and accountable with how this can be used, how this can be impactful for them. And I think that translates differently for an enterprise, right? Because of that compliance, because of those systems. But it's a fascinating concept.
Right. And we as humans, we have a trend that to easily see what can go wrong, and it's hard to see what can go right. Right? It needs more creativity, future vision or whatever, right? And enterprise are good organizations to, avoid things to go wrong and to avoid, crazy mistakes and creativity, right? So, and I think it's also a moment of, not only efficiency, but also install, a creative mindset of, I recall a few years ago, I was invited to the opening of a new car plant. It was not a VW, but and the guy said, the president and CEO said, people don't know the car they will consume in 5 years. We gotta think about that car, right? So there's an invitation, I think, also for us to take some risks and be a little bit more otherwise the comparison of my friend, experience with LLM will be so different from her experience with banks and all types of different companies, or people will order a pizza somewhere else, which is not a good idea, right? So with looking for a different experience, a customer experience, right? So we have 2 minutes here, so I would invite you to complete the phrase, right? To reimagine the future of customer experience it's kind of an advice, right? So, that's the theme of our panel, right? Reimagining the future of customer experience. Why? Because the customers are having a new experience there, right? We gotta pay attention to that, right? So, what is reimagining the future of customer experience? Who wants to start?
I'll start. We were talking a little bit last night about a few years back. I think it would have felt crazy to order a pair of shoes without trying it on. And then Zappos came along and kind of reimagined that, and I don't think anything of it. You get a pair of shoes, if you don't like it, you return it, and it kind of changed the way that a lot of us buy clothing and shoes and things that we never would have thought of before that. As we build trust in AI systems, and I think as you have your trusted Claude or ChatGPT or whoever that is, and you get more and more likely to let them make decisions for you, I think that's one of the areas that I think is the most exciting and scary thing. At what point do you hand over the keys to somebody to actually order pizza for you tonight when they know enough about you and where you're going to be and who's going to be there to actually go out and place that order for you? Feels like a ways off right now, but I think within a couple of years, a lot of us are probably gonna be there. It might not be 90% of us, but I think it's gonna grow, and over time, in a decade from now, it'll probably be natural just to say, hey, ChatGPT, give me my usual, and you just know it's gonna be there on time, and you don't have to even pull out your credit card.
Or you just talk with Domino's and say, Domino's, same pizza of last week. I have 2 more people. You know what to do.
Yep.
Boom, and pizza arrives. That's what people are expecting, right? So. Right? So we got to figure out how to do that, right? So
absolutely, I think it comes into more of a anticipatory, personalized experiences that are completely relevant for you.
Right? And maybe you send a new, flavor of pizza saying, I think you should try that, but it's on us, right? So can you imagine? People's like, wow, they will post that on LinkedIn, right? Saying, wow, I got that experience, right? Kate, your reimagining the future of customer experience is?
Being really close to the consumer and the world around you and the insights, right? We talk about anticipatory and hyper-personalization. And again, I think about reimagining as really truly offering a different solution because consumer behaviors and expectations are changing. So that's where you're gonna stay ahead of the trend, and AI will help you probably on the back end with those insights, as well as the front end with those experiences direct to that consumer.
Right. Perfect. Danielle.
To reimagine the customer experience is to be goal-oriented. One thing that's important to keep in mind is you can do anything. You can make your customer experience faster, you can make it more personalized, you can make it more empathetic, you can make it more anticipatory, and it is our job as people trying to improve experiences to really understand what our customers desire out of their own journey and then use the tools that we have to create that. So I was having a conversation yesterday where we were talking about use of AI in doctors' visits, right? You could use AI to completely, hypothetically, replace a doctor. So someone's just interacting with a robot and you can make the visit extremely fast and extremely efficient, and that might look good on your balance sheet for like a couple months. But you could also use it to take notes for the doctor so that they can actually look you in the eye and listen to you. You can use it to augment their thinking and suggest possible treatment options that they hadn't thought of before. And you can use it to identify anomalies in the diagnosis process so that they can think of unexpected diagnoses that you might need. And so, I mean, you can understand how those are completely different visions. And so it's really important to understand what you're trying to create and what you're trying to achieve for your business and your consumers, and then use the technology to do that, not ask, what can the technology do, and allow that to drive you.
Good. Taryn, hard work, the last one.
I know, but I'm going to pull apart all of the answers.
I
I've
totally
already
agree.
heard, right? So I think the future of customer experience is trust, relationship, and sort of omnipresent. And what I mean by that is, so in financial services, if you come to our site or our app and you don't believe the balance that you see, we've lost your trust, right? So how long are you willing to engage with us? So it doesn't matter how I delight you, if it's a voice bot, if it's a chat bot, and I get the information wrong. We've all talked about data. I've lost trust, right? So I think trust becomes super important as we move forward. I think relationship is key. I think you're seeing, Danielle just alluded to this, like today the funnel is essentially dead, right? If you're a traditional marketer, I'm not gonna nudge you along for 3 weeks or 6 weeks, right? Kids today have 7 devices going, they get an ad for Domino's and they hit buy the pizza and it comes and they're still playing their game and chatting with their friends and watching a movie, right?
Right.
So like nurture across all of that is impossible to figure out. So relationship and having that trusted relationship is going to be key in terms of creating lifetime value. I think we're gonna move away from transactional. We've become very transactional recently. We're gonna probably move away from that, certainly in financial services. We wanna be your trusted partner for your wealth creation. It's sort of the mission of the company. We charge very low fees so that we can help you achieve financial outcomes. But so trust and relationship are keys for sure at Vanguard. And then ubiquitous is sort of, you know, the Volkswagen presenter was talking about driving by a building and asking the car what building that is, right? You're everywhere. So I might be out on a run and I need to ask my watch how my portfolio is doing based on the Fed Reserve cut today or increase today, right? And so the device is becoming less and less important, I think, right? The traditional web or mobile experience is probably gonna look very different in 2, 3, 5 years.
Right.
That connected voice experience in the car is an example of that, right? So I think constantly will be changing, but at the core of it is sort of data, understanding about your customer, understanding that empathy, what are they needing, what do they need now, how do I help them achieve that, and maintaining that lifetime relationship so that you create that brand synergy, right? Domino's wants you to buy Domino's pizza all the time. You probably won't, but that's what they'd rather have you do than buy from Pizza Hut or I don't even know chains anymore, but you know, or the local pizza guy, right? So But I think those are three keys to the future of customer experience.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Before we close this, you mentioned an ad. Mir in the previous panel mentioned you got to go with the flow. I wanted to take it's a 1 minute and show you guys one video that we produced about our CI&T flow. And Jason mentioned the magic. So let's see how you like it. And we were discussing yesterday night, so I have to show the video to Danielle and Elliot. Elliot is somewhere, right? So let's play the video and then we wrap up this.
Managing AI feels like a black box. You know it's running, but you don't know what's inside. CI&T Flow, our AI management system built for enterprises, turns mystery into mastery. Govern, monitor, and scale every model and agent across your stack. It's not just about building faster. It's about knowing why it's faster, to understand what to do next, and what value it will unlock. With CI&T Flow, you get end-to-end visibility. Who's using what, how it's performing, and what impact it's driving. No more guessing, just unified control. Connect your prototype, code, and business logic in one engine, built to support multiple frameworks and integrating agentic tools, open to partners and collaborative systems, with zero trust security from the start. CI&T Flow is the command center for your AI strategy. One place to see it, steer it, scale it, and make your people unstoppable. It feels like magic, but really, it's just damn good math.
Thank you so much, Kate, Danielle, Taron, and Jason. Thank you. A round of applause for them, and thank you so much. Let's go. I invite Bruno back.